Alright, we're in Restream. And how do I go live on this now? Okay. Can I just start streaming now? Can I just stream, please? Oh, are we live? Alright, I think we're live on Twitch. Okay, that's a start. We're not live on YouTube. Why are we not live on YouTube? Come on. Why do we have two different streams? Okay, Restream, you screwed me here. I've set this all up before. And now I'm guessing everything is not set up correctly. 1 second, guys. Oh man, what a mess. I've set all of this up already. Alright. Alright, and is that the correct link now? Because I have a feeling it might not be. Because you screwed me. Alright, 1 second. I need to change these now. Because Restream screwed me. They set up an event. No, they set up a second event somehow. And they made me edit both of them. And yeah. 1 second, I gotta fix this. God damn how they screwed me. This is for Twitter. Oh, Restream. Why do you do it like this? Don't you understand? This is sort of delicate stuff. You can't mess this around like that. They cannot create two events when you spend all your time sharing the links out and everything. It's ridiculous. And then you have to do it live on stream, because everybody loves watching somebody panic while they're trying to set up social media stuff. Nobody's here for that. Not even me. Alright. Well, that's live now. And we have some notifications. Oh, now it's bouncing me around. Alright, I think we're okay now. Alright, and I don't need this. So, yesterday we started cleaning up the internal code structure, but I haven't been able to bring myself to do the final step of basically, you know, starting it up all clean. So let's try thinking about that for a moment, right? I think I started drawing up a hierarchy a little bit. Somewhere. Oh, don't need that anymore for sure. Somewhere I used the word component in a little comment where I was drawing up the hierarchy. Or not. Okay, I thought I was doing that. Maybe it's down here somewhere. No. All right. So, I hope I didn't not commit that code. That would be rather bad. Uh-oh. I have a bad feeling about this. Did we not commit the code? We did. We must have. Right. Right. We must have. We have the editor component. All right. All right. So the idea is we have components that can be nested and that know how to render themselves, etc. Then each component has a UI. So for example, the editor has this UI. That's the editor UI. Then it provides a space for the subcomponent. I mean, this is very React-y type stuff, really. And then each component knows how to update and redraw themselves and all that stuff. The question is, how often do we want to call render, right? Because, for example, as I'm dragging the line, we want to update the line, but we don't necessarily want to update anything else. Now, we could leave that up to the line to decide. So then each line would basically have to say, oh, am I dirty? You know, and then the render would basically have a force function. So, for example, if I switch away from all of this and load it in from scratch, all right. The other thing I was thinking about is, one sec, is to start from the other direction, right? So what if we're just loading in an existing puzzle and decide how that is going to be represented in the editor, right? So instead of loading in something like this, you know, we'll find some sort of simple test puzzle, you know, with a few elements in it. New. Simple, I said. New. Yeah. Ideally something simple enough with just lines and such. Let me see if I can find something from the puzzle archive quickly. I hope they don't mind me using them. So here's something with cages and dots. We don't have dots yet. How about something with cages and lines? And arrows. Lines, cages, and arrows. Alright, that's simple enough. So that would be the F-puzzle version, right? And our localhost version would look like something like this. All right. So now we can start from what we already have. Why is the arrow in the wrong layer? That's not how it's supposed to look, right? Let me just see what it's supposed to look like. On SudokuPad.com. Ah, my bad. Yeah, the arrow is below the line. That's weird. Not how it should be. All right. So let's have a look at this. Or maybe even better, instead of starting from here, we start with our plain puzzle and then we load this puzzle into the editor sort of thing. And see what that flow looks like, right? So we can get rid of all these components for now. Yes, we have load state and all that stuff. Let's think about what happens from the initialization side, right? Don't really want to fire any of this. We do want to output when init happens. And then we have handle tool enter. We're adding the sections here. And then we'll do this. Tester. All right. So init section lines, editor component, components, prop lines, array. Okay. So I guess all of this could also be part of the editor now, right? And every component, editor or otherwise, should know how to render itself, etc., etc. And not just render, but also add and remove themselves from the structure completely. So that makes me kind of tempted to move all of this into an editor component. Editable line is an editor component. So a component really is something that renders itself on screen, can update UI, can interact with stuff, and can be serialized. Does the editor as a whole need to be serialized? Not really. So maybe we want to treat those things slightly differently, right? But now we've kind of defined a little bit what editor component has. In this case, it has the component change. Yeah, so that stuff, we probably want to separate that a little bit. All right, so we've had that hierarchy last time. I don't know where it went now. So let's kind of redraw it a little bit here for a moment. So, component. Right. So at the top level, we have the editor. Then we have, then what do we have? We have sections, and we should probably call them something else. So we have the puzzle editor. Then we have a component editor. And then we have the component. And then this would be right, and then component would be line, cage, arrow, grid, right, board, let's call it the board, right. And the idea is a component editor manages a list of components. Now, is the puzzle editor a component editor where each component is this? Maybe not, right? But the puzzle editor is definitely a component, and it definitely needs to know how to add and remove itself from the UI, right? So that means each component should manage its own stuff. So does that include, for example, for a line to be part of a list of lines, is this option managed by the line component, or is it managed by the lines editor component? I think in this case, I would argue that would be managed by the lines editor component, and the line only knows about the SVG data to draw the actual line, right? So let's start at the top level then. So the same way we created an editable line here. And I think base constructor here was not the right, yeah, I needed to fix that, right? And we might have to rethink the structure of the component. And the question is, how far do I want to get into this right now? All right. Let's start with the editor for now. So we'll create the editor. And the moment we're just going to derive it from component directly. Like these things aren't applicable here. All right, and at the end we return the constructor. We'll just do this. And then things like render. So the question is, these kind of functions, would they be called from the outside, right? So for example, the tool has handle tool enter and all this stuff. But we could potentially forward them relatively easily. Sorry about shifting around, but I still haven't been able to fix my chair. And now the parts are on back order and it's a big pain in the butt. All right. Start of the stream was a total mess, so I don't even know right now. People are in the wrong stream. In fact, now I'm thinking, is it actually still unlisted? Uh-oh, might still be unlisted. Content, live, public, scheduled, live now. This one should be public, publish, and this one shouldn't exist. Delete. Am I deleting the right one? Yes. Yeah. Never happened. A scheduling mistake. And there's another one scheduled here, I think. Oh no, it's deleting. Now please don't delete the one that's live right now. That would just be terrible. And it's still possible. Come on, YouTube. Don't screw me. Please don't screw me. At least Twitch seems to be behaving itself. Don't know if I need to do anything here. Science technology, tags, stream language, English, okay. I don't know if I can choose a game here. Can I not choose a game? Game, category, go live, title, tags. So Sudoku is not even a tag, okay. Don't know how the tags work on Twitch, to be honest. All right, and I think the stream here is working fine. All right, sorry, I'm so indecisive if I should get started with building the structure from the ground up or not. Because what happens here, right? In the editor, we have init and done, right? And then we have tool enter. Forget load state for a second, right? And I think that just happens. That's the next thing that happens, right? And then we have handle tool exit. Right. If I start this from scratch, right? Tool editor init. Now new section lines, so these get assigned here. So we don't actually want to do this here. We want to do this later. And then here we want to return for now. Alright. Alright, and then there's the handlers aren't running properly. Okay. So forwarding the handlers should also be something that should be done internally to the structure. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if this whole tool could be an instance of this. So if this could be in here. That's actually an interesting idea, and maybe it should be like that. Okay. Let's do that for a second here. So what if we do this? All right. All right, and we just call this puzzle editor. Like that. For example, right? Where does that take us? Now this has to have these props in here. So we can do this, .name equals editor. Yeah, let me just do a couple of these things. Section, right, no, doesn't actually make sense. New component, that's where we come from with the puzzle editor, all right? Excuse me. Now this does the whole handle blah, 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 right? So we're hitting this stuff here. So we need, yeah, all right. So let's bring some of these things up here. So we have init, done, those are the main ones. So we're just gonna do this for now. So we have init, done. Now, and we have these handle tool enter. Yeah, okay. Handle tool enter and handle tool exit. And they should all be bound, etc., etc., yada, yada, yada. Okay, now if I'm not on this tool, refresh, we have init. Okay. Handle tool enter. Okay. So this starts to make maybe a little bit more sense now. And now we want to look at our component ancestors who knew how to attach themselves to the DOM, etc. Now we just have to see how we want to express that, right? So init is where we instantiate stuff, but handle tool enter is where we actually attach ourselves to the DOM, right? So, and we probably don't need to pass in like a parent or anything like that. I don't think this would be the right place to do that. Or would it? I mean, this thing does have a parent, right? Is there input? Controls, yeah, parent controls input. Does that make sense? Probably not for now, but maybe that's something we can add later. All right, so component now should have something like p.attach and detach. And let's call them elem. Let's do it create and destroy. Make it clear the element shouldn't really stick around at this point. All right. And then we'll just do this here. Attach. No. I'm already getting confused. Create, destroy. All right, let's stick to create and destroy for now. Create. Destroy. And then in it here we wrote this dot create elem and this dot destroy elem. Now we have to be a bit careful because in this case, for example, the editable items don't actually necessarily get removed when we're switching away from the editor, right? Because we basically want to play the puzzle, potentially. Well, so we'll have to see about, you know, how that works out. All right. And now we kind of know what create element is, right? And how that also supposed to work. Create element. I'm gonna do something like this. Okay. And that's fine. Now the question is, if I leave, what happens? So, because detachment right now doesn't actually happen. So we need to keep that. This dot UI element. And then we should be able to do just gonna see what we get without actually destroying it. Handle tool exit. Create element, destroy element. Ah, yeah, sorry. This doesn't happen in it. This happens here. Create element, destroy element. So something else removes it for us here. Doesn't mean we shouldn't clean up after ourselves. All right. Boom, boom. All right. For now, that's fine. And it means we can just come back. Okay. And now we're going to actually look at a puzzle. So we're just going to grab some puzzle data here. And ideally, we don't custom build loaders. Well, we might have to custom build loaders for various things. The outline. I removed that, but I think you should check outlines on digits. Maybe, yeah. Maybe he hasn't tried that setting. Yeah. Okay, so we probably want to load a puzzle. Now, the question is, do I want to load it into the normal engine? Maybe that's exactly what I want to do, and then see if I can make it editable. Maybe that's exactly what we need to try to do. And it could be difficult, but maybe that's the point, right? So, after handle tool enter, we're just gonna do that here. We're gonna have, nope, all right. All right. So then the question becomes, how do we load the puzzle? Something like this. Load puzzle data. Puzzle data. All right. And then we can do this dot load puzzle data. Boom. Load puzzle data. So, step one, just load it in. And one of the quickest ways of doing that likely is just go through the normal flow, right? Now, the original engine isn't really well designed for switching puzzles. SudokuPad does do that. So I might have to kind of cheat sheet a little bit over there and see exactly what I modified to make that easier to use. Because, for example, there's no singular load puzzle thing, right? We need to just figure out what this is first. So we probably want to have the fpuzzles lead string here. Actually, let's have a look at the SudokuPad code, because it does a bunch of stuff with these things to kind of figure out what we're loading initially and so on. So in app, somewhere here, get puzzle, create puzzle, restart puzzle, update puzzle, load data. So let's say if we look at something like puzzle listings or create puzzle, that's where we're doing all the shenanigans, right? So show puzzle player. This is basically where we're loading in a puzzle. Create tools, init, refresh controls, close dialog. It sets up all the puzzle buttons and so on. So it's running app.init, which I'm guessing also happens here. App.init, sure. And then change tools in it, show puzzle player. So that's only one step. Init edit mode. Show puzzle player. Handle puzzle player. Show puzzle player init play mode. And then load puzzle into engine. Application.puzzle to CTC. Ah, yes. Yes. So this is the one that kind of cleans out all the different kinds of puzzle data and homogenizes them. And I think I've cloned this elsewhere as well. Ah, no, this is actually the puzzle structure in SudokuPad, which is additional data which we don't actually have here. So this is the one we care about, I think. Right. So a whole bunch of this stuff is not going to be, well, actually a lot of this stuff is going to be available, right? Yeah. Let's see what we get at the end. Is it a CTC puzzle? Okay, it's a decoded puzzle. Okay. So puzzle to CTC. And then basically this. Okay. All right, looks like a lot of this work has already been done. And syntax error. So Now, I know this is going to be a promise, right? Load puzzle data. Sync. You know, let's not mix our structures here. Ah, boom. Okay, that loads the puzzle in. So that's a good first step. So now we need to look at the data. We could look at it from here, but it would be nice if we can look at it from inside. Oops. Inside. Where am I? From inside the app structure itself, right? So basically, framework dot app dot current dot puzzle dot current puzzle, and that's the internal data that we have. Okay. So let current puzzle like that. And let's label this up here as well. I don't know if those are the same structures, to be fair. Yeah, because this is... Oh. Yeah. Interesting. A lot of stuff gets lost here, actually. So we definitely want the original CTC puzzle to look at. That's our sort of internal shared format. Google is getting its knickers in a twist just because I logged in from somewhere. No, that wasn't me. I don't know why you have to tell me 26 different ways. All right. Now, regions is where we're going to get our puzzle data. So let's ignore that for now. Cells is where we get our givens, etc. Why is this not loading here? Interesting. Does that mean this happens before the browser itself is ready? Okay, so that's a bit of a timing issue, especially since it might happen much later. So let's have a quick poke at where the browser actually does its loading, right? So this could happen much later, right? Preload, postload. Yeah. So we probably need to... There is a load event, which we should wait for. The problem is that load event won't fire at a later stage. All right, so since this is just for testing, and ultimately we can grab the puzzle data from the existing puzzle, right? I can just delay this for now. So I can do this and go here, all right. Or, conversely, we can bring in the data initially, right? And we have this situation. And then we don't have to worry about this at all. So let's so So instead of doing this right now for testing, let's just have a separate method for open puzzle. Right. The only problem with this is we don't actually have access to the puzzle data anymore here, if I recall correctly. So if we go to puzzle.load puzzle, not app. App. Puzzle. And I need to restructure this. Convert puzzle. Source puzzle. There we go. We are storing it at least. At least. Okay. All right, I'm gonna have to find an event. So dot init. Nope. Dot trigger. Act restarted, drag and control unpause. Start. So framework dot app dot on start dot handle app start. But I think there's also one for loaded. Start, stop, start, loaded. Yeah, I think loaded is the one we actually care about. I think I should call this on the app, right? I'll just label it with app because that's where the event happens, so I don't get confused. Or is it? Where are we here? We're inside puzzle. Okay. All right. Makes more sense. Init. So init happens here. So we start listening. Puzzle. There we go. And handle puzzle loaded happens. All right. So then handle puzzle loaded, we can do this dot open current puzzle. And now, my gosh, finally there. We've got the source puzzle and we have the current puzzle. And the source puzzle is the CTC puzzle. So we're gonna rename that to CTC puzzle. Actually, no, we're not gonna rename it. We might as well use source puzzle. Right? And we want to get rid of the code I put in here right away, so I don't leave it in there by mistake. Four, 3, 7, 5. Boom. Be gone. All right. And now we have some features that we can look at. So we have arrows, pages, and lines. That's the stuff we're going to look at for now. All right. And then obviously we have to filter out the cages correctly, etc., yada, yada, yada. So I think it makes then a lot of sense to structure our internal components to match this data well. Because that's what we're trying to edit, right? And then it should evolve from there. As we're discovering puzzles that we're not handling correctly yet, then we add features to the editor to handle those correctly. Kind of like how we've been building things retroactively the other way around as well. So we have a thickness, we have a head length. That's for the arrows, right? And then for the circles, that's overlays and underlays and all that stuff. Okay, and then packaging them up into recognized sort of features, well, that's somebody else's job, right? I mean, some other code's job. Still my job to write the code, obviously. Okay, so now the question becomes, from here, how do we manage the next level up, right? So we have the editor component. No, we have a component. We have the editor component. Is that how I want to manage it, though? So the editor component manages a list of components, one of which is selected. Kind of like the editor does with the sub-editors, right? Not sure if we want to handle it the same way, though. It would be nice if we could have the same code managing the list of components as well. And then just have a different individual component editor underneath. Something on my glasses. So, I mean, what I would like to get to as a prototype right now is to get to a point where I can click on one of these features and select them, right? So to be able to do that is basically I need a line editor so I can select the lines. Or since the lines, we've done some work, we maybe want to do a cage editor. Okay, so let's do a cage editor. Right. And we probably want to inherit from the editor component. Naively, just now. Right. And at the end, we want to return our constructor. Like that. So, when we're initializing here, we want to create a new cage editor. All right, so this dot sections, or this dot editors, this dot. I don't like that. I don't like having editors as parts of an editor. How does Unity call that stuff? Maybe we call this, instead of being the puzzle editor, we call this the inspector or something. And then we have the editors in there. We have cage editor, line editor, and that kind of thing. We don't have a puzzle editor, even though... basically, I want nested editing, right? Nested editors. You choose which kind of thing you edit, and then you choose... Actually, do I want to choose which kind of thing I edit, or do I want to be able to just hover and edit over all things, right? Because that would be the other thing, right? How do I choose what I'm clicking on when I'm clicking here? Do we still have music? Oh, it's only an hour. Okay, that's 1 hour of streaming. That's actually a good question. how do I click things that are stacked, right? Do we click them by Z order? Do we click them by... I mean, that's kind of part of why I wanted to be able to choose the different components, because then it becomes much easier, because you're less likely to have the lines overlapping. And then, of course, if you list the component, you can just click that component, right? So I think we still want to do this. And we don't want to call them constraints, because obviously it's a cosmetic editor, right? I want to call them parts or something generic like that. I mean, I called them sections before, but that was just a layouting thing, right? Because I wanted to have sections in the UI, so that's really a terrible name. I mean, sub-editors. All right, let's go with editors for now. I'm wasting time here. New cage editor. So we shouldn't have to keep a specific reference to it now. Ooh, doesn't like that at all. New cage editor. Cage editor. Bind handles listed name cages. Editor. This.editors. Puzzle editor. Create element 634. No tool enter. But I have a feeling that is not where the error comes from. Interesting. So handle tool enter is happening way too early. It's happening when the tools don't even exist yet. So we need to make sure that the first tool enter is not executed before our first, ready event is triggered. So this dot puzzle loaded equals promise equals new promise. I mean, it would be nice if I can just set it up as a promise, right? So I don't have to do all sorts of weird flagging things. So this would be resolve, reject. Ugh, I hate that I do this. Actually, if I do this as a function, I don't have to do this. Then I can just do this dot resolve puzzle loaded equals resolve. So then whenever I call something which depends on the puzzle being ready, right, we'll do something like this. Dot puzzle has loaded. Dot then. And then we just do these things in here. And I think my idea here is the exact opposite. So, and then resolve puzzle is loaded. I can do under handle puzzle loaded. I'm gonna go with this for a second here. Cannot convert undefined or null to object. Function is create element. So make sure these are what I think they are. Handle puzzle loaded. Okay. We're executing that function. That should resolve the puzzle has loaded promise. And then we should end up here. And we should be bound correctly to the this of here. No. It's not. Puzzle has loaded is not defined. Puzzle has loaded. Oh. So it's a fulfilled but undefined puzzle. I mean, promise, right? And that should also be, here should be a pending promise. Then we're loaded. Now it's a fulfilled promise. And at this point, our UI should be ready. So we are now in create element. And sections doesn't exist, all right. Yeah, and we don't have that yet. Okay. So we're adding the editor. We have our little promise here that we can now just rely on. All right. So we probably just don't want to do this. Something like that. Right, so we have a cages editor here. And now the cages editor starts kicking in. Resolve puzzle loaded, yeah. Okay, resolve puzzle loaded, open current puzzle. And the tool enter. And then we can do this.open current puzzle. Now this should happen multiple times if I leave the tool and come back. Open current puzzle. Open current puzzle. Okay, so every time you enter the tool, it's reopening the current puzzle. That's fine. For now. All right, at least now we have proper round trip handling of everything. So now the idea is we want to forward events, right? So these events handle section input. Oof. Let's just change these to input, handle input. Oh wait, this thing doesn't do anything anymore. All right. Okay. I think I'm gonna have to categorize these already. All right, and then we'll do something like P forward events, event function. Okay, and then we'll basically have a bunch of these guys. We'll have something like this. And we can probably do something like this. Let's see. Right. I think we can just do these in bulk. Like that. Kind of something like this. Let's just keep our syntax aligned, and then p dot. The thing is, these won't be bound, right? They can't be bound because this is a freaking prototype. So, what we really want is handle name equals function. So we create a function for each of these, and then it just kind of does this thing. Return this dot forward event name event. That should create all of these handlers. And then here, we should also do this. So mouse move is getting forwarded, input move, mouse move. Yeah, all right. And then here, we kind of do the same thing for the editors, right? And I'm gonna do a loop here because, as you can see, that happens a lot. So we can avoid the extra function calls and all that. And then if type of editor, if I type of editor name, and I think we'll do the same thing here. Name equals function. Then we'll run that event handler. Like that. The left-hand assignment 662. Okay, and now input move should work here. Whoa. Why did you suddenly jump around? This is not the buttons I was pressing. I was pressing that. Now it works. So, I don't know what happened. Here we go. It's not working. Okay. So, forward event, editor handle, blah, blah, blah. All right. Oh. Ah, it does work. Get your handle input move. Okay. Now what we don't have right now is the actual presence of mind as to what's happening here, right? So the editor obviously currently has no conception of what a cage is and what cages there should be. So we should probably load these first, and maybe each of these editors should know how to handle its own data. So these I'm gonna deprecate for a moment because I'm not using them. And then these should also have like a load puzzle data. then we just forward the puzzle data to these guys. And then they can do with it as they please. Oh, that's the editors each. Let's just call it puzzle. And load puzzle data. Okay. Let's pull our cages out of here. And we basically need to reverse what we do to find out the meta cages, right? So meta, get puzzle meta tags, cages. Actually, where are we handling cages? So it'll be in puzzle loading. Sudoku cages. If cells length is zero, return. So we kind of have this thing going on here. So the other question then would be, we need to not just know what cages we have. We need to connect the visual element with the specific cage, which could be difficult if we allow things like overlapping cages, right? So we'll see. But we're not home free yet. So what kind of cages do we find? We find 2 cages in these positions and these values. All right. So then the question is, can we easily grab the relevant object in the SVG? Let's find out. Actually, we can do that here, right? So document.query selector dot cell no hash no. Let's just look at the code. That's where the truth lies. Cell grids, right? So we want hashtag cell dash grids. And then the cage is made up of a path and a piece of text. Right? So the question will be, can we extrapolate from the path? I mean, we can also go the other way around. We can remove all of them and then put them back in. And then knowing which one is which, right? Yeah, I'm wondering if I'm barking up the wrong tree here. And I can potentially add things, like I can add IDs and stuff in here, which I probably should have in the first place. Let's try something simpler first, right? Let's try the cage values first, because they might be easier to identify. So we have text in the grids layer, and those obviously reference the cage values, right? And we should be able to find which cell should have a particular cage text. So if we look at render cage up here, we have a get cell outline, which we might also be able to match up actually. And then there should be a RC parse RC val cage value. Now the card cage, oh, that's interesting. Because I don't think this cage value is here. That cage value gets generated for here. No, I think that'll be in current puzzle, right? I mean, we can use it, right? Like, why not? So the transformed final puzzle structure will, 4 cages, have the cell location in it. Which means that gets calculated in... Find cage value cells. Where is this from? This is on puzzle. Function. Or we do it that way. We can recalculate it, right? Potentially. Yeah, framework. Let's just say... No, let's just say that... app.puzzle.down, and the cage thing has cage.cells. Now the question is, these cells, are they the correct format? We'll find out, I guess. Uh-oh, nope, they're not. So when this thing gets called, things will have already changed. Oh, we're not actually... That's not the one we're using. Shoot. Out cage label cell. So this happens in here. In the... Man, that function is such a mess and it does so many different things. Yeah, so we don't want to recalculate that, but this needs to be extracted and put into its own thing. There should be just a function that... And in fact, I have that function. I don't know why it's not being used. One of these days, we're going to do a stream where I just clean up a million tiny little things like that. The problem with stuff like that is it tends to break stuff as well. So it's not as easy as just doing it. It's not necessarily safe just because it might seem it should be. Can I... Add to block list. Yeah. So now this guy should be blocked. It's already suspended. That didn't take very long. Twitch seems to be faster than YouTube with this stuff. Okay. Ooh, that's gonna... what's going on? So we should also be able to match these cages up. And they should be in the same order. So if we do app.puzzle.current puzzle.cages idx. Don't know where that'll come from. Yeah, so it's not that easy. It's not that easy. It's never that easy. Never. All right, we're better off recalculating those. But if we even can't even match them up between two different versions of the same data. We can stay in my office. All right, so I probably should wrap this up into getting the cage value thing as a separate function. But for now, we can probably just do it here. So p.get cage value cell. Seriously. All right, so if cage value is not equal to undefined and test cage dot value, label cells, cage of cells sorts top left RC. Okay, which I think is available here. And then we can do return, blah de da. And probably do this. Get cage value cell. Why are we not here? Handle puzzle loaded. Pretty sure a second ago we got all the way to handling the cages. Handle puzzle loaded. Resolve puzzle loaded. Okay. And that should get us here. Or not. What the heck is going on here? We're definitely finding this function here, right? Okay. Shouldn't this fire next? Handle tool enter. Handle. Sweet. Handle tool enter hasn't happened. Ah, my god. I'm such an idiot. Okay. So everything's working exactly as designed. Nothing wrong. And I'm gonna fall over this a million more times. Thank you, JavaScript. Cue the TypeScript supporters. All right. Okay, now I've obviously commented out that line. So bring it back. Okay, and now instead of doing all this, we're just going to return this. I think. In fact, we're going to just return this one. Okay. And now we can compare these guys. No, not these guys. We can compare these guys. Boom, boom, boom. So we have the element here. Getting hungry. I think it's time for lunch soon. Do I have X coordinates on these things? I hope I don't have to do bounding box comparisons. Ugh, that would be just worst. You have center here, but I don't think that's... oh my god. We have X and Y's and center. So this has an X and a Y. I'm pretty sure it does. Which apparently I can't read off there. Check SVG animated length list. Ugh. Alright. What about get attribute X? Is that Saner? Okay. And then divided by SVG renderer dot cell size. And I have no idea if that's right. So yeah, it's surprisingly right. And then it should be the middle of the thing, right? So we're gonna do the same thing for Y. We're going to compare that to the cage values. And there be one. Wait. Oh, there's two of them. All right. Excuse me. So it's 1, 5. So first of all, they'll be reversed. And second of all, we'll need to round them, right? So we'll do this. And that should match them pretty close. 1, 4, 5, 5, 1, 4, 5, 5. Okay. And we can probably make a little something like const get cage val lm equals cage. And we can do let rc equals. And then we can do yada yada yada. Boom. R equals let C equals. Okay. And then we can just do a return find text element return rc0 equals this and rc1 equals this. Does that work? I think that might work. Cage. We get this one, we get this one. Don't need to do that anymore. So that gets us the cage element here. And we can do something like let val lm equals this, and then we can do val lm dot text content, right? I think that's pretty much what we want. So text count is 15. Value is 15 here, and this one is completely rubbish. All right. And then we can do and cage dot value equals dot text content. Don't know if I need to stringify both of those. Text element dot text content. Undefined. Is there something that comes through here that is undefined? That doesn't make any sense. 607. I convert them both to strings first. Yep. Okay, so what happened was it was undefined coming out from here. Okay, so that gets us the text element. So we can reverse engineer where the biddies come from. I'm guessing for the grid paths, I think what we can do is we can look at the code that generates the path in here, and if it's simple enough, get cell outline, right? So if I do something like this, cage style offset. Oh, shoot. This might not be super easy at all. Do we have access to the style here? No. Yeah, so we actually want to reference the other, the converted data. So we need to match between those as well. My God, this is turning into a little bit of a mess, and I'm wondering if this is worth doing. Because the other way around would be to just wipe them out and redraw them, right? The thing is, I want the editor to work even with puzzles that contain elements the editor does not understand. So it should let you edit the things it knows, so it needs to understand them well, right? So it can go surgically in there, modify that thing, and then without screwing everything else. Yeah, I mean, we definitely can match them. So for example, if I look here, so we have a bunch of cages, because the cages here now also include our rows and columns and all that stuff. So we do have to do sort of a double match, right? But that one we kind of can do. We know we can because we know we've already made that conversion. And in that conversion, we can just replicate that conversion, and then we know what the final data look like, and then we can match it up. I mean, it's just labor, right? It's not solving any problems. There's no problems to be solved, right? So, for example, if I do this for the cage, if I do this, right, it'll give me this, and then I can do something like let current puzzle equals app.puzzle, and I can do console.log current puzzle.cages.find, and find cage let cage cell equals this, and then kind of cage dot cells equals cage cells right? And that should, for example, find the cage. So it finds this thing, and then we have that built in. And then there's a bunch of things we want to maybe check for, make some other stuff, because obviously I don't know if a puzzle will ever have multiple cages with the same cell content, but it's always a possibility, right? Now, reverse engineering for this to the actual path is actually not trivial, because we still need to determine what kind of type it is. But we do have styled killer. So maybe let cage 2 equals whatever, right? What a mess. Why do I have so many different formats internally already? And this should give us killer now. The style for the killer cage. Like that. And then from that, we should be able to do that. And these cells, I don't know which ones those are. So these are either cage 2 cells or cage 1 cells. App.svg renderer. All right. So these edge points do not calculate correctly. So that means the when we call render cage, oh, did I just put a dot there? The cells have already been converted. So it should be app.parcells app.puzzle dot, and that's probably cage 2 cells, I'm guessing. There, look at that. And now I'm still not done. Now, I mean, obviously we can all wrap that up and it's not really a problem, but we basically want to do this. And anything I'm replicating here is a good hint that it needs to go, that path equals, it needs to go into a function, right? And that's good too. It'll tell us, it tells us something. So now we have paths. And now we might want to look through these paths. All right. Dot get attribute. Now let's look at the path data for each of these paths and see if we can do a straight up match. There'll be one match, right? That path element. And then after this, if this works, I'm gonna take a break because this is hurting my brain. Did I? Felt like something moved. Oh yeah, the whole browser window moved. Up. The editor's gone. Get element. I think this. I think this might do it. So if I hide all of these, and we have this, right? So we can cage val elem cage path element. So it kind of starts all the way here. And that goes in here. So cage itself, da da da, current cage 2, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. And turn path element. Does that really work like this? That would be funny. I mean, funny. This is programming. This is how it's supposed to work, right? Lest we forget. Alright, cage cells. We don't care about those things either. Then we can do val right? So we have a val element with the value of 15 and 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean these. That looks about right. Yeah, it's getting highlighted up there. And then these should be the other cage. So we can now match the cages to the specific elements. And now with that we can start modifying them, right? So set attribute stroke width is zipadim and stroke becomes, or make it red, second red. Yeah, okay. So we can definitely manipulate them now. So the next step now is to say, okay, where's the mouse? And how do we define what it, like, you know, if I click here, will that highlight this cage? It probably should, right? And with the arrows, maybe if I click here, it should probably still highlight this arrow. I don't know if I have to hit it exactly. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to handle that. I might even have to do bounding boxes and all that stuff. Oh, yeah. Actually, we can probably do it just by point proximity, like we did with the other, in the previous algorithm, where we were drawing the lines from scratch, right? We don't care which arrow, we care about the points you're in. So if you're here, you're on this arrow. Well, we do care, but the points will tell us, right? Until you have multiple points in the same spot. Well, we'll see. Arrows are much more likely to cross each other. Yeah, it's not trivial. It's not trivial. Anybody who's ever built like any kind of application that lets you draw stuff, like a vector drawing, or even things like a word processor or something, same problems, right? Over and over and over. But I feel like this is a more sophisticated approach than, you know, in the old editor and stuff like that. And ultimately, these kind of low-level constructs will let us reuse them, right? Because, you know, arrows, you know, selecting points, selecting cells, etc. Maybe select. I mean, ultimately, maybe I change my mind, and maybe you have to select the item here on the side first. There's something really screwy with the scaling. Why is this here narrower than that? This is definitely something where the layout task comes in. This shouldn't be like that. And I think on mobile it's probably better. Spinny. At least it matches the width here. I don't know why on desktop it doesn't do that. Huh. Probably to make it not go too large. And this is so tiny in here. Alright, but at least this is a sort of bottom-up approach, and now we're starting with a filled-in puzzle, and that's actually, I should have done that from the start, because that's actually what we... The first use of this editor will not be to create puzzles from scratch. The first use will be to load in puzzles from fpuzzle, etc., and then modify them, because it doesn't have any tools for, any real setter tools, like about the solution of the puzzle and setting the puzzle itself. It just has visual tools, right? And that's usually the last thing you do. And that probably sounded horrible, sorry. Just noticed some dust on my microphone. All right, I'm gonna take a lunch break. My brain is fried. I would like to get this today, at least to the point where I can hover over the cages and select the different cages and have the UI update. So the system is aware, like we have a round trip between changing the cage, what's visible, modifying the data of the puzzle. And then from there, it should be relatively easy to... Ooh, I'm saying this now, but... The question is, can I round trip it all the way back to, hey, I've updated the SVG now. Now I want to generate the fpuzzles encoded data to actually render this data packet. Like, if I can do that, that would be awesome. Like, if I can round trip it back to fpuzzles, especially if it lets you do things that fpuzzles itself doesn't, just because the data technically supports it. So I could push certain things back into fpuzzles somehow, maybe. We'll see. All right, that's it. I'm gonna take a lunch break. I'm brain fried. Thanks for hanging out. Usual stuff, patreon.svencodes.com. Subscribe on YouTube. I really appreciate that. That helps me more than Twitch at the moment because I need to get to 100 subscribers to get a proper channel name. Hang out on the Discords. Under svencodes.com now, I just put a simple page with all the links. I think that's already working now. I think I just put a page there. Yeah, just if you go to svencodes.com, you'll see all the links and all that stuff. You know, what's this one? Svencodes.com. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Hey, Mark. Yeah, I'm just about to go off to lunch. I'm starving. So today just to catch you up quickly, if you're still there. Today I'm gonna... I went from the other direction, right? So we're loading in a puzzle, and now I want to analyze the puzzle data and structure it in a way that the editor can use it, to the point where now I want to be able to click on elements in the puzzle, highlight something that the mouse is hovering over, highlight the particular arrow, highlight the particular cage, and all these sorts of things. So hopefully I can finish that aspect off later today. Kind of loading in an existing puzzle, obviously not supporting all the different features and stuff, but I think that's actually more realistic. And I'm realizing there's a lot of round tripping going on. Like, I need to figure out, given a SVG path, match it up to an existing cage, right? And internally I have two different representations, which is horrible. And I realize I need both of them because they're a little lossy-ish. Not exactly lossy-ish, because one converts to the other, but I don't want to replicate all that code that generates the second representation. So if I have access to both, you know, so I'm gonna create a couple of little helper functions to encapsulate all that behavior. And ultimately that probably should go separately and maybe even be used in the main app, not just in the editor, and replace some of the stuff that's happening in the main app, you know. Little things like figuring out which is the cell that contains the value in a cage and so on. Because it's incredibly difficult to figure out that this is a killer cage. Like, you know, if I take this, how the hell am I supposed to know? Okay, I have class cage killer, sure. But which cells does it pass through? It's not easy. And that presupposes that I know exactly what everything is. What if there's a line that looks like a cage but isn't a cage, right? How many different things do I look at specifically, right? What if a user custom makes a style that makes it look exactly like a killer cage, but it's not a killer cage? So if I try then to interpret that as a killer cage, it might break something else, right? So it's not trivial. In fact, if I didn't have the cage to go forward, convert each cage to the path that would represent the killer cage, going backwards would be very difficult. You'd basically have to implement a vision system, right? You basically have to create a neural network that looks at things and figures out what the structure of it is. Really, really not easy. Now I could be more sensible and I could mark the SVG up and add classes and IDs and data sets and so on. But then I have to add, you know, modify the forward rendering, right? And then basically I'm just embedding the puzzle data into the SVG, which I don't need to, since I have the puzzle data, right? All right, end of the music. That's the second hour. Maybe you'll be around in the afternoon. Would love to get your input in this stuff. I mean, some of these things aren't trivial, right? Store both what? I am storing both. But I don't need to store both because the SVG is trivially produced from the data, but the data is not trivially produced from the SVG, right? One is a drawing problem, the other one is a vision problem. We know how to draw stuff. We don't know how to see stuff easily in code. But thanks for the comments, Patrick. Hope you pop by later on later on this afternoon. Yeah, I mean, the real problem is the code is a mess because I built it up layer by layer without going back refactoring the things that were meant to be refactoring. So I have multiple internal representations that aren't necessarily, that don't all contain all the information. They're lossy representations. So that's a little tricky. I mean, for example, one representation, let me see if I can show that quickly. So one representation, this is the representation that comes in from the outside. It just says value. It doesn't say where it is, right? While the internal representation has resolved that value to a specific location. So it says, hey, in this killer cage, the value is in this position, right? But I want to be able to support people placing a cage total wherever they want, right? So in theory, you should be able to pass that in from the outside. So it's a little bit, yeah, it's. I mean, I think the real problem is I should go back and do what I've been wanting to do for a year and a half, is to design a beautiful internal representation of puzzle data. Flexible, powerful, expressive, simple, etc. The problem is, if I do that, I can spend a long time on it, still not getting it quite right, and it adds absolutely nothing to anything, right? While if I build an editor, that helps a lot of people. So people want to see the editor. And, if I want to do stuff that potentially gets me patrons and subscribers and all that things, I need to do things that people want, not things that make my own life easier down the line. It would be nice, but, All right, that's it. I got to get going. Take care. See you guys in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. And now I need to figure out how to end a stream from all these different tools. I think from here. See ya.